What's going on, boys? We are on day number 5 of reading through the book of Deuteronomy. Today we're going to be looking at a very important topic, the 10 Commandments. This is something that I feel like we are all pretty well familiar with, but as far as remembering the 10 Commandments, that's the part that we don't remember. So I just want to say that I'm going to try and break these down as best as I can, and I hope that you just bear with me a little bit, as a lot of this stuff written in here may be hard to kind of apply to your life, but I think that no matter the circumstance, there's always something that each of the commandments calls out to you. So as we know, Moses was called up to the mountain, and God spoke to him physically through the fire. And the commandments were written on these 2 tablets, and they were taken back down. Moses brought them back down from the mountain, and he would share them with the Israelites, saying, this is what God is shared with me, and this is the commandments that he has called us to obey. And so the first commandment that is given to us is in verse 7. It says, you shall have no other gods before me. So God is the only one that we should be obeying, bowing down to, and giving praise to. There is no other God besides the God of Israel. The God of Israel is the God who leads us, who takes care of us, and he's still the same God today. So the same God that led the Israelites out of Egypt and in seek of the promised land is still very much present in our lives today, and we have to figure out that he is the only one. There is no other. The second one is in verse 8. It says, you shall not make yourself an image of any form in the form of anything, in heaven above, or on the earth below, or in the waters beneath. So this is kind of a similar one, but it talks about that we shall not commit idolatry. We talked about idolatry a lot, and I feel like why idolatry is brought up so much is because we tend to fall into it a lot and we don't even recognize it. Prominent example, social media. I am a prominent individual that is prone to falling to that. So we must not worship false prophets. We must love others by obeying the Lord's commands and understanding that, we only need to be bowing down to him. And this doesn't just include going to church. This means, putting his word into action, sharing with others. This leads into the third one. As in verse 11, it says, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. So this actually connects to a verse from the New Testament. I don't exactly remember where. I think it's in the book of Galatians. But anyone who mocks or misuses God's name will not go unpunished. So, we know that God is there for us. We know that. But more importantly, what we have to recognize is that he's the creator and we're the creation. It's not our job to call him out and say that he made a mistake or that he's terrible. Like, that's not our job. And it's not even to say that, anything else, but we are the ones that mess up. And for us to call him out like that, well, it's going to make him angry because God does not mess up. He doesn't make mistakes. God is holy and he is good. But when you sit there and call him out, tell him that he is not helping you, that he is not trying to build your life, well, it's not really true. I mean, if anything, it just means that you're not listening and you're just doing what you want to do. And the reason why you fall into sin a lot is because you go off your own ways and you're unorganized. And then moving on to the next one, this fourth command, this is something that I feel like a lot of people struggle with, primarily because, they tend to forget what this day means. It says, observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy as the Lord your God has commanded you. So as you might know, when God was creating the heavens and the earth, he created the earth, when he created the earth, he created it in 6 days. And on the 7th day, he rested. And he called the day holy as the Sabbath day. So essentially, the Sabbath day is a day of rest. And it's basically a day that said, okay, the other 6 days of the week, you're doing labor, you're working, you're trying to take care of your family, this and that. The 7th day, you rest. Now, here's the catch. Just because the Sabbath day is a rest day, it doesn't mean it's a day of laziness. It can be a day of spending time with family, or doing some of your favorite hobbies, or trying to just, relapse a little bit, try and, push things aside, say, okay, well, I'm going to take it slow. I'm going to focus on God today. The Sabbath day is not a lazy day. I just want to make that clear. The Sabbath day is a day of rest from the workforce. So this is a day where you get to do things that make you happy. And this is not self-pleasure. This is a day of listening to what God calls you to do, listening to what God is saying. Yes, that is who you were meant to be. And as we continue on, we just also have to remember that, you have to make the best of what you've got. And I think this next one is very well prominent of that. The commandment 5 says, you should honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long, and that it may go well with you and in the land the Lord your God has given you. So I kind of had a proposition that why we have earthly parents, and why we just don't follow God as individuals, as just, like a dog follows us. So, everybody on this earth has earthly parents, even if, you don't have both your parents together, or if you lost a parent. At one point in time, you have had both your mother and father that gave birth to you. And you come into this world for a reason. Nobody comes into this world by accident. So if you ever think that you're an accident, or that you were never meant to be here, well, I can assure you that you are, because God created you with his own hands. And when it says to honor your father and your mother, this isn't just saying that, you have to bow down and do everything they say. This means that you must obey them, and you must remember that they are people. For myself, have noticed that in my own life. My situation with my parents is a little bit different than everybody else's. That's a story of its own that I won't go into right now. But I know that, my parents are there for me if I need them, but they also understand that, they're people too. When you grow up, you have to understand that your parents aren't just your parents. They are, your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. They are humans just like you. Yes, they may be 20, 30 years older than you are, but that doesn't mean that they're just automatically, over you all the time. Just because you're older doesn't mean that you automatically have this higher level of education, or higher level of, smartness, for say. Sometimes you have to be the one to say, hey, you're doing this here. I just want to say that's not right. And sometimes you have to be that kind of, initiation, or, ignition for them. And it's tough sometimes, just because, your parents your whole life, and, your parents always told you to do this and do that. When you have to, once you stand up for yourself, you have to kind of just be like, hey, this doesn't seem right. I want to talk about this. And it's a tough subject. But moving on, the next 3 ones are pretty short and simple. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, and you shall not steal, verses 17 through 19. So it is not right to take someone's life. Doesn't matter how old they are, what their purpose was, what they look like. You shall not murder. Do not take someone else's life, because it is not okay. You don't know what that person could have been capable of. You should not commit adultery. I think this is probably one of the ones that we struggle with the most, especially for guys. Whether it's something we see on our phones, or something we see out in public, the thoughts immediately come in, and we become so easily manipulated by these thoughts to fall into lust, into masturbation, and it's a tough thing. I won't say that I've never fell into it, because I have. But you have to remember that your body is a temple, and we have to better ourselves by listening to God and taking care of ourselves. And we should not steal. If you really are searching for something in life, maybe you should ask God, and not just try and be like, well, maybe if I can just, kind of wheeze and wiggle my way out, maybe I can figure a way out. There's no shortcuts. There is no way that you can take that God's not going to see. If you really want something, seek God, and he can show you. He can help you. And if it's really something that is, meant to be for you, God will give it to you. But a lot of times it's not. So remember that seek and you will find. And that means seeking God first. Commandment 9, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. So speak what is true to those around you. So when it says your neighbor, this isn't talking about your next door neighbor that lives in your neighborhood. This is talking about everybody that surrounds you. We are all neighbors in Christ. We all are in our own paths. We live our own lives. We have our own things with our own families and the way we go about, taking care of our households and our careers. But don't just jump to conclusions with someone saying that they don't know what to do. I mean, they're a human too. They're made of the same materials that you are. And I think this kind of fits along with the last commandment, which says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desires on your neighbor's house or land, his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So don't seek possession of what is not yours. So again, this goes back to Commandment 8, don't steal. So if it's not yours, don't seek possession of it. Clearly, if someone's been given something, it's either because they've done it on their own or God has given it to them. So if someone's been given something, don't be jealous of just, oh, well, they just got that. Just that, like, maybe you might get that too, but it's going to take a little bit more time for you because, they're on the different path to God than you are. And sometimes you have to make your own path with God. There is no copy paste that you can just follow someone's lifestyle and you get exactly what they get. You have to make your own path. You have to make your own lifestyle. And when you have God at the head of it, that's where you start receiving those things and you start becoming less and less jealous of what others have. And so that's the end of the commandments. I have 2 more verses that I want to read that kind of summarize the commandments. But the first one I think is really interesting. It's verse 26, and it talks about how we can hear God. So most of us know that the best way we can see God and hear God is by physical signs, by maybe it's miracles or God speaking through other people. But as far as hearing God's physical voice, we know God as a person, but hearing his voice physically, not just through another person, but like seeing him as a particular figure, looking at us, speaking to us, that's something that is like almost, let's say impossible, but it is extremely rare. And verse 26 kind of helps us to understand that. It says, for what mortal has ever heard the voice of the living God speaking out of the fire, as we have, and survived? Go near and listen to all that the Lord your God says. Tell us whatever the Lord your God tells you. We will listen and obey. So essentially saying that anybody that, if we all were to hear the word of God, we would die. Because God resides in heaven. God is holy, and he overwhelms us to the point where we can't even live in our own bodies anymore. So for one to hear God's physical voice and survive and tell the story, if you hear God's voice and you survive, I think that's a pretty well good sign that you need to go share his word, because he is not only sharing what his command with you, but he is sparing your life, saying, hey, I am speaking to you physically. I want you to go share that word with that particular person, with your neighbors. I want you to go share that. And well, I personally don't recall having that point yet. I have heard God's voice through physical signs and visions. And it is very just incredible the way he works. So if you ever feel this, urge of God just speaking to you physically, and it's one of those, oh my gosh, like I feel like I have to do something, you should, and do it, like fully commit to it. And so the last verse 32 through 33. So be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or left. Walk in obedience to all the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land that you will possess. So I wrote down, always face forward to God, and seek him fully to better your life. So we have to seek him fully, as we've talked about before. And this process is not going to be easy. Nothing about life is easy. But God is calling you by name, saying, hey, my son or my daughter, I know you're struggling in life. Let me help you. Let me guide you. Obey me He's like, because I believe God believes in you. But when we believe in him, so many great things can happen. So many great connections we can have. So many doors will be open for us. And we can forget all about the bad things that we may have done in our past. And so that is a wrap for today's chapter, the 10 Commandments. It's just a powerful message. I want to finish off with the daily prayer, the 365 Power Prayer Sermon. Today we are on August 6th, and today's topic is called Hiding Place. We are in the book of Psalm, chapter 32, verse 7. You are my hiding place. You protect me from trouble. You surround me with songs of victory. Father, I know my life is in danger. There is trouble all around me. At any point, things could end, and I wouldn't have a chance to breathe, to see my family, or to show love. Help me to remember your protection over me. Give me urgency to do what others as you do. I need to prioritize my life better because I want to serve you in your kingdom. I am not always aware of your goodness and kindness in watching over me, but I do want to be better at acknowledging you each day. So, we are told all of our lives that our life is a timer. You never know when your time is going to be called. You never know when God's going to call you up to heaven, to judgment day. And every day you get to live. And when God wakes you up in the morning, be grateful. He woke you up for a reason, so make the best of the day. I know it's something that all of us struggle with, myself included, but I believe that the reason why we live long lives isn't just by coincidence. It's because God sees so much potential in us. So we have to seek that out, because I see so much potential in the people around me, my friends, my family, and to those who are watching. So I hope that you guys have had a great Wednesday, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, boys.